story on New Start, and I have two headlines here to kind of describe how this whole thing has gone so far. The first one is by AFP, and it was reprinted at the Moscow Times. Putin proposes 1 year extension of New Start treaty. And then this other headline from the Wall Street Journal: White House dismisses Putin proposal to extend New Start arms control pad. So, it says that Russia put out a proposal to extend it and the White House slapped it down. Will, is this what happened this time? And also, from what I think, representative of basically the entire New Start treaty negotiations.
Yeah, it does seem like it. I mean, like, yeah, those two headlines are pretty illustrative there. Putin proposes and then White House dismisses. And this is we should say to extend the like one of the most important treaties in force on planet Earth right now. It's the one that limits how many nuclear warheads and missiles that both countries can have and how many can be deployed at once. So it is like the major arms control pact governing, covering the US's and Russia's nuclear arsenals, especially after Trump let the INF treaty die. So it's extremely important. But yeah,
Yeah,
Vladimir
can I
Putin said,
just add one more thing to that I actually picked up kind of recently, so I don't think I've actually talked
sure.
about on the show. But there's a lot of things in New Start that have to do with like the surveillance and inspections of like nuclear arsenal and nuclear weapons and stuff like that. And all those inspections are in New Start. So not only would you lose like, the official caps, but you would also lose the ability for each side to inspect each other's nuclear arsenals, at least to some extent. I'm not sure, exactly if you're allowed to like look at it, examine every bomb, or if it's like, you see like the certain parts of each plant or something like that. But those inspections, you would also lose a lot of those if you lose New Start. And I believe that's actually a little bit of a sticking point of the Trump negotiations about those inspections and stuff like that. But well, go ahead with your analysis on this.
Yeah, sure, sure. And those are good, observations, good things to point out. But yeah, like I think it was on last Friday, Vladimir Putin said Russia was willing to extend this treaty for 1 year with no preconditions at all. And they have actually been saying for quite a while now that they're open to a 5 year extension that's like actually built into the treaty that like provides for a 5 year extension of this. But they put forward this 1 year idea as like a stopgap measure, I think, just because the treaty is set to expire in February, and so that deadline is coming up pretty fast. And they just, I think, wanted to get something in there so that they could, negotiate, buy themselves some more time to negotiate. But the U.S. rejected that offer out of hand. I think the National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien came out and said it was a non-starter. Like it was so far from what would be acceptable. They called it a non-starter. Although to me, it seemed like that's exactly what it was, though. Was a starter, like something to get them started, to buy them time to negotiate more. And it's really unfortunate to see the U.S. just completely dismiss that out of hand. Because the U.S. does want preconditions on the deal. They've had a couple demands they've been making on the Russians for a while. One of those being that they want the Russians to pressure the Chinese to participate in a separate nuclear pact that covers all three countries. Originally, they were actually, like, for a while they were arguing they wanted China in New START itself, but they kind of abandoned that idea. And now they've been saying that they want a new arms control pact with all three countries. However, the most recent precondition they've come up with, I think, is this demand that Russia put a 1 year freeze on its whole warhead, on all of its warheads, its whole stockpile. And that's like one of the major demands, I think, that Russia has not been down with. That was not part of their proposal to extend for 1 year. And the U.S. is demanding that the Russians not only agree to that 1 year extension, but also put a freeze on their warheads for the year. And the Russians, I think their position is just that, like, this deal is good already. Like, let's not start jamming new extra preconditions and demands and stuff in it. Let's just extend it, at least agree to do it for a year while we can negotiate on further things. Because there's other things that they want to talk about too. There's certain weapons they're developing that the U.S. doesn't even have. Some of their like nuclear capable cruise missile project, that whole thing. And so there is a lot of stuff to negotiate in this. And they're saying, hey, let's do that and not put all these demands up front.
Yeah. Well, one concern I have, Will, with the 1 year extension is that you have this coming period in the US where we're going to have an election and then several months of either a lame duck Trump or, who knows what the Trump administration will look like after an election victory in November. But if you only extend New Start for 1 year, my guess is that the Hots are going to come out and start saying that, oh, Putin's just using stalling tactics and stuff like that, and kind of, make it harder for the U.S. to negotiate with Putin in the future, because he's just delaying. And if I have no idea what Biden would be, what positions he would be negotiating from. But it took the Obama administration a long time to get the Iran nuclear deal done. It's not like he's going to be ignoring his hearts. I think, Samantha Power, Michelle Flournoy will hold high, level positions in his Defense Department. And look, if he doesn't, you know have a whole lot of mental capabilities. And look, there's a lot of problems here in the US, and so it would take a lot of mental facilities for anybody to figure out how to navigate, as president, COVID, the police problem, and then the US foreign policy. And so assuming that he doesn't do a great job with that and just leaves it in the hands of Michelle Flournoy, I don't think there's any reason that the negotiations go smoothly, are able to get done in a year. Are there any more proposals on the table to go like the 5-year extension that's written in, because that's written into the treaty, correct? That at the end of the 10 years that it was signed by Obama, 10 years, and then it was supposed to kick, you could either negotiate something better or just extend it for 5 years. And so is there any more talk of that, or is that just off the table?
Yeah, as far as I understand, the 5-year idea is completely off the table. Like, I think the Russian offer to do it for 1 year, I think that was trying to meet the US, like to go a little ways to meet them. I think the US is not wanting this 5-year extension. It's unfortunate though, because like we did have like some reports, I think just like a week ago, that they were very close to a deal. They said I was reading something in Axios from like just over a week ago saying they had an agreement in principle, and they just had to kind of finalize it. But apparently that was either an exaggeration or something abruptly changed now to where, now there's no, Russia's offer has been rejected out of hand here. So I think that's unfortunate, because again, we are talking about one of the most important treaties in force on the planet right now. In terms of Biden, like I know he has come out and said that he'd be glad to extend the treaty. This is kind of like Obama's legacy that we're talking about here, so he would be down with that. But I think you make some good points that like it all depends on who's actually negotiating, and if he has hawks in there, his liberal hawk friends negotiating, then that might not spell very good for the treaty, even though he as president says that he would extend it. And I think too, like the idea that this is Obama's deal, Obama got this deal signed. I think that kind of shows us why Trump doesn't want to just extend it as is. Like I think Trump wants to boast some kind of diplomatic success, and if he extends it just as the agreement is now, that's kind of Obama's success. Like he wants to change it or add something to it to make that happen. But it's unfortunate because now we see them basically playing politics with this, where they're trying to, they want to, I think him rejecting the offer might even be some kind of like strategy or ploy that he wants to try to pressure the Russians to come to the table before the election by making a big deal out of this rejection. I don't know if that's going to work, but I do think that Trump wants to get something signed before the election. But now, I don't know if that, it seems less likely than ever now that they've rebuffed the Russian offer. So I don't know what happens from here.
Yeah, I mean, that's one that I think the few fair criticisms that like general Democrats have Trump is that he would be too brutish in these negotiations. And so, look, if he waits till the very end, Russia just may step back from the agreement. I don't think they're going to let themselves be bullied here. And it seems that Donald Trump really tries to resort to those tactics. Now, it really doesn't help that since he's been president, this is kind of the one thing that the establishment Democrats seem to encourage him and agree with him on. But this was the behavior that they were saying was really dangerous, and the reason we couldn't have let Donald Trump president to begin with.
Right, but then they love it when he does it with Russia, though, for sure.
Or
How
even Iran, really. And
right.
do they really bother to oppose Venezuela? Or I guess they're pro, the maximum pressure on North Korea. Maybe they
Right.
oppose it a little bit on Cuba, but you don't hear it hardly
It's not in
ever.
their top 10 complaints for sure.
Right.
Like, if, their top 10, you wouldn't hear a word about any of those things.
Right.
So,
Other than Bernie Sanders praising Castro's education system, they don't seem to care too much about what's going on in Cuba with the people suffering and stuff. But anything else on this, Will, or should we move on to Afghanistan?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. Just like like it did. It seemed like for a moment there were some reports. It seemed like they were on the cusp of a deal with this thing, and it's such an important treaty. But now it seems like they're wanting to play politics with it. And we even had the arms control envoy Marshall Billingsley saying, if Russia doesn't agree to U.S. demands before the election, then the price will go up for the deal, and that like they'll make it even harder to reach an agreement. So now it seems, unfortunately, this might be sort of out of reach. Like maybe we won't even get it extended by next February. The thing may just expire. So that's on a sour note. Let's move on, I guess.
Yeah, we're just playing with nuclear weapons here, so nothing to worry about.